Good morning. It's wonderful to be here with such a wonderful group of people on Mother's Day, and I want to express my appreciation for all of you. One of the things I love most about this church is the way it always stays the same. What? We're changing all the time. Ministers, staff, music, members, technology, on and on and on. Especially those of us back in the AV room think it changes every week. But if you look at the basics, what we call our principles, they have remained rock solid in our two core beliefs. All humans have value, and all humans are entitled to find spiritual beliefs in whatever way works for them. That's what immediately drew me to this church, and I know it will always stay that way. And now, I want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's visiting us for the first time. Rather than gathering because we all have the same beliefs, we are an intentional community gathered around our shared promise to support each other's individual spiritual journey. We're also intentional, and I found this part very interesting, about bringing all ages together. In today's world, that doesn't happen all that often. But we think it's important to have an adult friend ask a child of youth how that science test went, or to have some 30-year-old talk to a 70-year-old about life while having coffee in the coffee room. If you're here in person, I hope you'll stay and chat after the service and tell us a little bit about yourself. And if you're joining us online, please fill out a visitor form using the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you. Now, of course, I have a few announcements, but they're all important. First, we want to welcome back Reverend Teri. There's stuff I'm supposed to read here, but you all know Reverend Teri, and if you don't, you will. Second, next Saturday on the 20th from 9 until, is it 1? Yes. It's our spring all-church day. We have inside projects and outside projects, depending on the rain, to be done by people from all ages and abilities. If you missed out on the winter work, the painting of the building, now's your chance to get dirty. And I'm going to read this third one actually mostly twice because it really is important. 1 week from today, Sunday, May 21st, will be a big day. And I'm going to actually read it so I don't screw it up. There is no 9 o'clock service next week. Repeat, there is no 9 service next week. Good job. See, I told you she was good. But from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, the staff is going to provide a pancake breakfast. Yeah. As their way of saying thank you for a wonderful year. And at 11 o'clock is our intergenerational flower service. And it's the 100th anniversary of this annual custom. Then at noon in here is our annual meeting. And in the RE wing is our first ever children's annual meeting. First ever annual, whatever. Anyway, and they'll have lunch and activities and games and a lot of fun. And yes, I will sit down now.
For those of you who may not have heard, he just said, I don't know if they're applauding for what I said or that I'm about to sit down. Well, for those of you who I haven't yet had the privilege to meet, I am the Reverend Teri Schwartz, affiliated here with UUCB, and I'm also the spouse of your lead minister, David Schwartz. We have been partners in crime and ministry, and were introduced actually 23 years ago because we both wanted to be Unitarian ministers. And so we largely stay out of trouble by staying in church. And it is a joy to be here again with you. Let us enter into a mind and space of worship. Take a deep breath and be here now. These words from my colleagues, another clergy couple, the Reverends Wendy Bartell and Lynn Gardner. From our separate joys and struggles, we come here to find the peace of balance and the blessing of restlessness. All are welcome to follow, to lead, to teach, to learn. All are welcome to join in the dance, to catch our breath. All are welcome to give generously and to receive gratefully. All are welcome. If we come this morning steady and composed, or if we come completely lost, I know I often come to church completely lost, even if we don't know what we're feeling, this community has a place for us, and here we matter. Here you matter, and here you are loved. If you are steady and poised, or if you feel completely lost and clumsy, you are welcome here. This community has a place for all of us in all the ways that we be and are and feel. We matter, you matter, we are loved, and you are loved. Come, let us worship. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, Wake Now Our Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted ceases the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
How about having Sam up here to lead us all, huh? Sit down. Okay, getting serious for just a moment. The chalice is our symbol of our liberal faith. It is the warmth of compassion, the fire of justice, a lamp on the spiritual path. If you're joining us online and have a chalice nearby, please get ready to light it with us. And now, I'd like to invite Pat Walters to light this morning's chalice. Pat?
Good morning. My name is Pat Walters, and I've been a member of UUCB since the fall of 2017. I appreciate the opportunity today to light the chalice for the service. It's appropriate that Mother's Day coincides with this month's theme, the path of creativity. My mother was artistic in a wealth of ways. In her youth, she was a vocal soloist. In her 80s, she organized and sang in a senior choir, the Silver Bells. She loved creating stained glass art and painting in a range of mediums. She even tried watercolor for the first time when she was in her early 90s. I am in awe of people like my mother, who start with a blank canvas or pieces of colored glass and end up with a unique creation. So to all of you who fashion works of great beauty, thank you. However, as for me, and Ray Mike can attest to this, I struggle to carry a tune or to draw stick figures. Luckily, I discovered that there are additional ways to be creative beyond the visual and performing arts, and I realized that teaching, my profession, is one of those ways. Think of the band director whose beginners start the year not knowing how to hold their instruments and conclude it with a performance. The English teacher who begins by reading a new novel and then crafts a multi-week project-oriented unit to engage his students. The coach who starts the season with a group of individual players and molds them into a cohesive team. The science teacher who helps her students move from an idea to a completed science fair entry. These results require creativity. I recently came across something I wrote over 20 years ago, yikes, when I was asked to state my philosophy of education for a job application. And this section of it still rings true to me these many years later. This is what I said. Achieving a well-rounded education requires much more than mastering academic content. Classroom instruction is complemented by extracurricular activities, athletics, drama, band, choir, debate, student government, clubs, organizations. The two together allow students to perfect lifelong skills. They learn to use their knowledge, to make an argument, to motivate, to resolve conflicts, to make decisions, to speak in front of groups, to perform, to express themselves artistically, to manage time wisely, to prioritize, to handle pressure and deal with disappointment, and the list could go on and on. Educators matter, and their responsibilities are humbling. So I'm honored today to light this chalice for all the educators who are working tirelessly, creatively, day after day to inspire their students. I want you to know that you are appreciated.
The covenant is to commit. To covenant is to commit. That even if we fall short of our aspirations, we will not let go of them. We will never cease from trying again to live them out. In that spirit, gathered and online, will you all together rise, if you're able, and speak our covenant out loud? We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and catch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. Thank you.
I invite you into the spirit of prayer and meditation. Breathe deep. Be here now. On this Mother's Day, we honor those who gave birth to their first child this year. We celebrate with you. To those who lost a child this year, we mourn with you. To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you. To those who experience loss this year through miscarriage, failed adoptions, or running away, we mourn with you. To those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with invasive medical procedures, tears, disappointment, we walk with you. Forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to make it harder than it is. To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, spiritual moms, we need you. To those who have a warm and close relationship with your children, we celebrate with you. To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. To those who lost their mothers this year, we grieve with you. To those who experienced abuse at the hands of your own mother, we see you. To those who lived through driving tests, medical tests, and the overall testing of motherhood, we are better for having you in our midst. To those who will have emptier nests in the upcoming year, we grieve and rejoice with you. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you. On this Mother's Day, we walk with you for all the ways we have been each mothered, for all that will never be. We hold this in our hearts. Mothering is not for the faint of heart, and we have real warriors in our midst, and we honor you this day. Let us be in silence. Ritual is the outward expression of an inward movement that sometimes unfolds over years. In moving our bodies and placing stones to symbolize our joys and sorrows, we are gardeners of our souls, tending and training and teaching ourselves to recognize the hope and suffering woven daily into our living, becoming a people who recognize both the beauty and the tragedy of this world and cultivate hearts supple and open enough to hold both. For those of you gathered in person, in a moment I'll invite you to take a stone silently, feel its weight, feel your body slowly warm it. Let it be an emblem of your thankfulness and your worry both, and then place it in the sacred earth in the company of all the joys and sorrows of this gathered community. Please, for all of our hopes and griefs, we hold this compassionate space with love. And come forward. I've placed 4 stones in the shared earth here for the blessings and concerns shared in this community this morning. On behalf of Jennifer Lehman, we celebrate and mourn the death of Catherine Long Roberts, member of this church in the 70s through the 90s. She passed away at 78 on April 30th. And from our members Fred and Barb, we celebrate the life and mourn the death of Rosemary Coleman, member at Cairn Christian and steadfast volunteer with Sanctuary Now. And celebrate Mary Jo Highland graduates DU Law School on Saturday. She got her start as an immigration lawyer working with Ingrid in Sanctuary. And I place one last stone for all those joys and sorrows that remain in the silence of our hearts. All those souls remembered and forgotten, we pray. Amen. A comedian was on the Conan O'Brien show a while back and said this. Now, we live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on us. This is just what people are like now. They've got their phone, and they're like, oh, it won't. Give it a second. Give it a second. It's going to space. Can you give it a second to come back from space? He said, I was on an airplane and there was high-speed internet on the airplane, and it's the newest thing that I know exists. I'm sitting on the plane and I'm looking at YouTube clips, and they go, open your laptop, you can go on the internet, and it's fast, it's amazing, and I'm in an airplane. And then it breaks down. And they apologize that the internet's not working. The guy next to me goes, this is BS. Like how quickly the world owes him something that he didn't know existed 2 minutes ago. Flying is the worst one because people come back from flights and they tell you their story like it's a horror story. They act like their flight was a cattle car in the 40s in Germany. That's how bad they make it sound. It was the worst day of my life. First of all, we didn't board for 20 minutes. And then we get on the plane. They made us sit on the runway for 40 minutes. We just had to sit. Oh, really? What happened next? Did you fly through the air incredibly like a bird? Did you partake in the miracle of human flight? You're amazing! You're flying! Everyone on every plane should just constantly be going, oh God, wow, we're flying, we're sitting in a chair in the sky. Here's the thing, people say there are delays on flights. Delays, really? New York to California in 5 hours, that used to take 30 years. And you thought you would die on the way there and have a baby, but not in that order. You'd be a whole different group of people when you got there, and now you watch a movie and use the restroom and you're home. We live in a world where things are amazing. You can fly at 30,000 feet, and things are terrible, to be sure. But so often we're blinded by what is bad. The internet's not working. Or war, violence, things monumental and petty. And sometimes we can't see what's amazing. And sometimes we're all that person on the plane We're focused on the few things that are going wrong, and we miss the many things that are going right against the odds. And most things are going well enough of the time. You all made it here this morning. Your car started, or someone who said they'd pick you up did, and their car started, or your body was able to walk you here or bike here. As a hospital chaplain, I worked on the birth unit for a year. When I was asked what I did for a living, I would share this with people, and they would immediately light up and gush, "Oh, that must be so wonderful." No one on the birth unit calls a chaplain for something good. I was called when the worst things happened, and they remain in my heart. The work was a privilege, but not an easy nor joyful one. It was easy to lose perspective. For as many of the tragedies as I attended, there were tens, if not hundreds, of normal, happy births. Now, not without irony, the year that I worked on the high-risk birth unit, I found myself pregnant. Week by week, I was amazed at all the bad things that didn't happen. I knew the risks that could come with every week. And I found myself surprised at how well things were going so much of the time. Now, generally, I like to be prepared for things. I like to think I'm thorough and I predict possible challenges. This is just another way to say I'm anxiety prone. And for those of you who might identify, and not to minimize or make light of the severe challenges that anxiety can pose, that I can really identify with, mild to moderate anxiety is a neurodivergence that is really adaptive for the human species. I like to think I'm adaptive sometimes. From time to time, and perhaps more often than I realize, I will lament to David a litany of foreseeable problems. And they're vexing my heart and mind. And he usually replies like this, which a few years into our marriage, I recalled that his dad would say this too. So, what if that didn't happen? More often than not, all of my imagined negative possibilities actually don't happen. And when they do, when plan A fails, I sometimes am surprised that there is a whole alphabet of plans. We all get stuck in wanting things in a certain way. Life is unpredictable, gives us some sense of agency and control. And it's so easy to focus so intensely on the few things going wrong that we completely miss the dozens of things that are going right. You know when you're at the grocery store and you pick that line? You know the one? It's the one where they have coupons and they can't scan a code for one item of food. Yes, that's bad. 8 other lines are working beautifully for all of the people there. Now, closer to church, you may find a few typos next week in the annual meeting reports. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that an amazing number of people have done an amazing number of things this year in this church community, both inside and outside of these walls. And the vast majority, probably 99.5% of the words in those reports have no typos. There is a lot at stake with our perspective because when the world seems stingy to us, we're pretty stingy with others. But when we feel blessed, it's so much easier to share blessings with others. The negativity skewed perspective is known in social sciences as a negativity bias. And psychologists suggest that over millions of years, it was adaptive because we were dodging sticks, chasing carrots, and it was a lot more important to notice and remember the sticks than it was for the carrots. The carrots will come again. There'll be something. But if we forget a stick, a predator, a natural hazard, wham, there are no more chances to pass on our genes. That was helpful, but it's not good news when it comes to noticing and holding on to the blessings of our lives. For instance, it often takes 5 good experiences to make up for a single bad one. Imagine you're at work or where you volunteer or at church and you get a constructive criticism. Well, it'll take 5 good pieces of feedback to really counterweight that. And so often at the end of the day, we think of that one thing that went wrong. The guy who cut you off in traffic. The thing you wish you said just a little differently. The one thing on the to-do list that didn't get done. Well, 50 things went right that day. All of the other drivers did not cut you off. Everything else you said that day was kind and gracious and thoughtful and well received. Everything else on your to-do list was done. That was 59 things. We notice the arising of pain, of sadness and anger, but how often do we notice it passing? Many, if not most, of the facts in our lives are positive or neutral, and every day, lots of good things happen. Sometimes we aim for the perfect and it gets in the way of the good. And so I've started this practice. When I find myself trying to edge towards this perfectionism, I add most of the time. I feel like I messed up on something. Well, I live with integrity most of the time. I like my work. This is on a bad day. I like my work most of the time. When I've really screwed something up as a parent. I'm a good parent most of the time. I like my husband most of the time. Hell, I like myself most of the time. It's a matter of where we put our attention, and that takes practice. And that is not a new idea invented by psychologists. That is an ancient one. I'm going to do the unorthodox thing here in a Unitarian church, and I'm going to share a brief reading from Christian scriptures. Paul the evangelist tells the church at Philippi, it's like he's writing them an email, and in the subject line, letter to the Philippians. Finally, brothers, sisters, and siblings, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is an excellence and if anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Now, it's really easy to dismiss the scriptures of Christian tradition for so many of us in our churches. They're inextricably intertwined, perhaps with negative experiences in former church life, or the language just doesn't square with our lived experiences or traditions or how the traditions we were raised with. But there's much here. Now, Paul knew a bit of modern psychology. He knew about the negativity bias, and we're still catching up. So it helps to know a little bit more about the context of this letter. Here is the rest of the story. He is not all puppies and kittens and rainbows at this moment. He's writing the letter from prison to his favorite church. He is deeply fond of the people there. He is awaiting trial because Christianity is illegal. It is not the tool nor the faith or the power of empire yet. And so he may be on death row. And he learned, because the church is underground at that time, and word travels along these underground networks, that there is a great division in his church, and it's between 2 church ladies. Now, that has never happened in the history of ever. Euodia and Syntyche. Now, they're literally the heads of house churches because at the time, the church communities met in houses. They were meeting underground. This is the same kind of networking that we're going to do to give women access to reproductive health care. Okay? So the church way back has worked underground. So think about the heads of house churches for some of you who may come from mainline traditions as deacons or here like members of your board, the really respected, trusted leaders of the church. And actually our stoles, this history of stoles, in our Unitarian Universalist church, we use this to denote someone who has been in fellowship and has been ordained by a congregation. The host of the house church, their house, the person whose house it was, would wear a stole so you knew who to go to. So it's probably difficult for you to imagine two leaders of a congregation in conflict or a church divided. Now, actually, you guys are such a healthy church, like, it doesn't really apply as much to you. But it will come as no surprise that in any group of humans, if you're in it for the long haul, there's going to be some conflict. And if there's not, then there's a lot of people-pleasing going on and some stuff that's going to come out sideways. So in the midst of a lot of infighting in the congregation, probably substantive and probably petty, and plenty of his own suffering and uncertainty, Paul asks the congregation to set aside their arguments and be united. Now, he is not saying to ignore the difficulties of communal life. He is not dismissing his imprisonment and likely death. But he is also saying, y'all have got the negativity bias going on right now. You can also see all that is good in one another and the world. So these words sound just a little different now from a prison cell. Paul's fighting the negativity bias, and I'd say in the preaching business, we say we preach what we need to hear, and I think that's what he was doing. Whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is an excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. This isn't about ignoring the brokenness of our world or denying our own pain, but it's about engaging in the spiritual practice to be simultaneously willing to see the good at the same time. Not when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, when we are in the prisons of our own making. Plan A may fail, and it often will. Depending on things, plan B and C might fail too, but it's our job to remember there is a whole alphabet. And if we get to Z, you can go A1, A2, or alpha, beta. Yeah. And when we notice those blessings, we're more likely to bless others and make our world, the big world, and the world in here, a better place, even if slightly. There's a whole alphabet out there. May we notice it, and may we help others see it too. May it be so. Blessed be an amen.
Please rise, everybody.
As you're able. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There's more hope. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. And then there's more joy. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
We share our offering with SPAN, the Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence. SPAN provides shelter and advocacy for victims of domestic violence throughout Boulder County and beyond, at a time when our community is experiencing, get this, higher domestic violence rates than national or state averages. Higher than national, state environments. Wow. Let's hear from one of SPAN's clients sharing her story.
I was in a very abusive marriage for 10 years. My neck brace is a direct result of the years of abuse that I sustained from him. He would shake me, slam me against the walls, throw me down, fling me across the room. My entire neck now is metal and pins all the way up. My son was the most affected by the abuse. He became very violent to me and his sisters. He would get in a lot of fights at school. He couldn't make friends. He didn't see that it was from abuse. He thought that was normal. I had left him one other time and moved 350 miles away from where we lived. Wasn't far enough. He ultimately came and got me 8 months from the day that I had left him. I had never reached out for help. I didn't tell anybody what I was going through or dealing with. I was ashamed and scared. So it was very easy for him to pull me back. The abuse was even worse, and I had become extremely ill. I was bleeding very, very bad. I had lost 50 pounds in less than 6 months, and he wouldn't let me go to the doctor. Finally, I was able to go to a doctor, and they told me I had cancer. That was the moment I knew I had to leave. I left him 5 days later, and I came to Colorado. I left with 1 suitcase, my 3 children, a dog, and a very broken truck. I don't even know how we made it here in it. When I got to Colorado, Colorado opened its arms and gave me the biggest hug and said, "We're here, we see you."
One of the ways we keep our hearts from hardening is by having our spiritual buckets filled in a community like this. We aim to think about what is beautiful and excellent and worthy of praise, so we have the capacity to work for justice. It's been a joy to worship with you today. These words from the poet William Stafford. Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you better thoughts? When you turn around starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found. Carry into the evening all that you want from this day. The interval you spent hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now? Starting here, right in this room, when you turn around. Will you rise in body or in spirit as we close in song?
Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you would take, may love guide you on your way. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you would take, may love guide you on your way. Thanks, y'all.